Sometimes in life, trying harder doesn't always get us the results we want. Imagine a farmer who has planted his crops and now is waiting for them to grow. But because he believes that more effort always leads to better results, he starts pulling on the plants gently to help them grow and waters them 3 times a day. And I think you can guess what happened in the end. All his crops die. This is what happens when you try to force things instead of allowing them to unfold naturally. We've all experienced times when you put a lot of effort in and got nowhere, and other times when you put a small amount of effort in and it led to great results. But why does this happen? Well, let's look at the ancient philosophy of Taoism to see if they can answer it. In Taoism, there is a concept called Wu Wei, often translated as not doing or effortless action, or another name in modern society is the state of flow. It is about aligning oneself with the natural flow of life instead of struggling against it. And through this alignment, everything is accomplished without having to put in any effort. So how does one get to this state? Well, in this video, we'll explore 2 key aspects of Wu Wei and how applying these principles in your daily life can transform the way you approach goals and the way you achieve them. So let's begin with the first aspect of Wu Wei, effortless action. So at some point, we've all felt the state of flow, that feeling of being completely absorbed in something, where time disappears and everything just works. Whether it's playing music, engaging in deep conversation, or even working on a passion project, it feels natural, almost effortless. For most of us, this happens unintentionally. So how do we get there whenever we want to? In ancient Eastern philosophy, this was known as Wu Wei, or effortless action, where the individual is effectively and efficiently moving through the world with no sense of effort, often losing sense of self or of time. According to Confucianists, the key is practice, kind of like a musician practicing for years until they can perform flawlessly and almost unconsciously. What the Confucianists believed is that if you keep working at something long enough, it eventually becomes second nature. Once this occurs, you can enter the flow state whenever performing this action. But the Taoists see it differently. They argue that this endless striving only leads to more seeking, one goal after another, never truly finding peace. To them, the problem isn't the effort, it's the attachment to effort. The Taoists believe that we should return to the natural state, what they call the uncarved block, before society's expectations shaped us. Think of how the external influences push people to extremes, like the way the beauty standards create issues like anorexia. Taoism suggests that instead of applying consistent practice, we should align ourselves with the natural flow of life. A great metaphor for this is floating down a river. Think of yourself as floating down a river. You're still moving and you still are taking action, but instead of fighting to increase your speed and move faster down the river, you just allow the river to guide you and just make small adjustments along the way. As you can see, this means that we're not just sitting around doing nothing all day. It means knowing the difference of when to act and when not to act. So the second aspect of Wu Wei is accepting the nature of things, which is one of our biggest obstacles to effortless action, as we are resisting the way things are, like trying to force a square peg into a round hole. Everything has its own unique characteristics, and we need to accept these and not try to change these. Think of the farmer we talked about earlier. His role is to plant and care for the plant, but no matter what he does, he cannot make the seeds grow. It is the seed's role to do the growing and to develop into the plant. And these lessons apply to our own lives as well. We all have strengths and limitations, and we need to take the time to first identify our strengths and weaknesses and then accept them. We also need to identify which can be changed and which cannot. For instance, we cannot change our height, but we can change how punctual we are. And we can also use this acceptance to accept the events that occur to us. For instance, let's take driving for example. Where I live, driving is a big problem. And when people are impatient and aggressive on the road and constantly trying to force their way through the traffic, this actually slows them down. But for those who stay calm and go with the flow of traffic, tend to have a much smoother, less stressful ride and end up in the same place at the same time. So when we stop forcing things and start accepting the natural rhythm of life, we experience less frustration and more harmony, and thus happiness. So you may be thinking, if I'm always in harmony and going along with nature, what does it mean? Will I never have any more goals? Well, the Taoists believe that we still do have goals, And the ultimate aim in attaining the sense of flow is to reach the goal of long-lasting happiness. But others had a different idea and thought that we should look at nature for ideas as to what are the proper goals in life. And if you observe nature, what you'll notice is growth is the underlying goal of all things. A seedling grows into a tree, and a few drops of water become a huge amount of clouds. And thus our goal in life would be to constantly grow. So Wu Wei doesn't really mean doing nothing. It means acting in harmony with nature. It's about knowing when to put in effort and when to let things unfold. And when we stop resisting the natural flow of life, we experience less stress, more ease, and a deeper sense of happiness. So next time you feel like forcing something, whether it's a goal, a relationship, or even something in your daily routine, pause and ask yourself, am I moving with the current or am I needlessly fighting against it? And if you enjoyed this video, I would also suggest you check out the Tao Te Ching, the principal work in Taoism. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.